Today we're going to be looking at the artist Lowry. Now, Lowry was an artist and he was born in the 19th century, which is the 1800s. So that's the time of Queen Victoria I. And he lived well into the 20th century. Now, he's a very famous artist because he painted something that a lot of artists hadn't painted before. He painted cities and he painted working class people. Now, why that was different is because up until then, mainly people that were rich were the ones who could afford a lot of art, and they wanted nice portraits and scenes of countryside and lovely things to look at. But Lowry found the cities and working class people really interesting to paint. Now, he's really famous for drawing people called matchstick people. So if you have a little look at the picture on the left, you can see why they said his people were like matchstick people, because they're very simple and he uses very thin lines to create those people. And if you can see that little dog as well, he's just getting that outline of the shape. Now, he liked to draw scenes of industrial cities. Now, the industrial cities are places where there are a lot of factories. He was from Manchester, so he liked to get a lot of those scenes into his work. So, like I said, he was born in Manchester, and a lot of people think because he drew working class people, so people that went out to work every day in factories and industry, they thought that maybe he was working class as well, but he wasn't. He actually came from a really well-off family, but he got a job and he collected rent for a company, and he went around all of these people's houses and he saw how they lived, and he saw them go into work in the mornings or go into the seaside or go into a football match, and he thought, I want to draw this. This is fantastic. So that is exactly what he did. Okay. So like I said, he was collecting rent and he saw these people in Manchester and he just had this urge to draw them. He thought, this is really interesting for me. And that's how he began his life as an artist. Okay. And he would make sure he got the everyday life of people in there. And that's what people like about them. Not lots of detail, but they kind of speak a message to a lot of people because it tells us a lot about how people lived. Now, by the time he was doing this art, it was the 20th century, the early 20th century, so that's the early 1900s. And here are some of his pictures. Now, this is a picture of a load of people going to a football match. And you can see the stadium there in the background full of people. And he's got his little stick figures going. Now, if you notice, he doesn't use a lot of bright colour. And I think that's just to show what it was like in the middle of these big built-up cities. It was often quite grey, often quite dull. You can see all of the factories in the background. And here are the people walking. And there are these stick characters. But if you notice, a lot of them, when they're walking, they're looking down. They kind of go into wherever they want to be on their purpose. Now, you can also see in the background of the picture that he's got like tiny little bits that show that there are crowds and crowds of people there. And there's no real definition to that. You can't tell that that's lots of individual people, and it's the same as well in the stadium. But it's just to give us that impression that these cities are very built up and lots of people live in them and lots of people going about their daily life. So that's one of his famous paintings, and I've got another one here. And this was based in Manchester, and you can see here lots of people going off to work. So you can again see the little stick figures, and you're going to hopefully have a go at drawing some of your own Lowry style art. So when you do that, have a little look back at this presentation and see what his people look like. Because often I get people saying, well, I can't draw people. But you can start with a stick figure and then just add a slight little bit of detail, a little bit of thickening, put hats on people, put some trousers or a jacket on, but you just build that up on top. And you can see again those dull colours just to show how industrial the city was, so how built up it was and how there were lots of factories, lots of smoke around, coming out of the factory tops, and it really kind of helps build that picture in our mind about what it was like in these big busy cities. Now, I've included this slide because this is a picture taken in Manchester in modern times, but it shows some of these industrial buildings. And here we've also got a canal, which is a man made river that was used to transport some of the goods from the factories. If you're having a go at drawing your own Lowry picture, you might like to take some ideas from here and use them. That's completely up to you. Because you might decide, right, well, I live near Scunthorpe and Scunthorpe's got a steelworks. And you might want to have a little look on the internet at some of the steelwork pictures and think about how you could include those in your Lowry style drawing. So remember, again, that Lowry used, let me go back, dull colours to show his buildings. And can you see the further things get away, the fainter the colours are? And that's to give us a little bit of perspective in this, to show that the place is stretching on for a long time. So you could have a little look at pictures of the steelworks and you could put some of those bits on there. And then you could have all the people going to work at the steelworks. Now, often when I was a young girl, this was a long time ago, folks, people used to go to the steelworks on their bikes a lot. So you would see people heading off to work on the bikes, or you would see them walking off. And when the steelworks shift changes, there were always lots of people around outside the steelworks, just like there are in this scene, going to work. So that might be a nice idea. You might decide, I don't feel confident in drawing the steelworks and my own scene. And if that's the case, that's absolutely fine. Then have a look at this picture or this picture and see if you can copy Lowry's style. That would be really good. So I'd like you to have a little go at creating your own Lowry type drawing. Now that might be from copying one of these pictures, or it might be to create your own, and that would be fantastic. Once you've done your picture, if you want to, you can take a photograph of it and you can upload it onto your work file on Purple Mash, and then your teachers will be able to have a little look at what you've done and give you a comment about it. That would be absolutely fantastic. Right, well, I hope you've enjoyed learning all about L.S. Lowry, and I hope you really enjoyed doing the art.